It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
I have my beautiful friend here, Itatiaia, and she is a coach who helps people heal alcohol addiction with raw, plant-based nutrition. And she also helps people find their purpose along the way. Thanks for being on Recovery Squared Radio.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's really an honor and privilege to be here, and I really appreciate your nice welcome.
Thanks again for being here. The reason Itatiaia is coming onto the show is because I find her story so interesting and inspiring. This story is a part of her process, and you'll get to experience her own healing along the way. So, Itatiaia, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, definitely. I'm a raw food coach that I help people heal alcohol addiction through plant-based raw food nutrition, and I also help them find their purpose, because I feel like, you know, after they're healed themselves, having a purpose is kind of like, you know, their new high. And so I know that my purpose helping them is what gets me excited in the morning and, you know, in my life. And so that's a really big part of what I do. Yeah, so I'm just excited to go on this journey with healing people with addiction.
I love that. One of the interesting things about this process in coaching is that we are in a constant state of healing to some degree. And this shows purpose, like we're literally both living our purpose by going through this healing, because Itatiaia is about to share some very shameful moments in her lives and be very vulnerable with you. And so I want to commend you for going on this journey and sharing this with people and be an example to follow in what other shame people have to heal from. And I think there's some valuable lessons that people will get out of this show. So I want to thank you so much for that, Itatiaia.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, this is a great opportunity to start sharing my story, because I've been hiding it for so long. And I just, you know, I almost didn't even want to, you know, follow my purpose, because I was just so afraid to let people know about my past and the shame that I've been carrying for so long, because it just, you know, I've been burying it and not telling anybody. And now, you know, I can't live my purpose fully and be the brightest shining star and do the work that I want to do, that I know I can do, unless I release it. And as I release it, I also feel like I can help my, you know, my tribe, my community, even in a deeper way. And so this is not only good for, you know, for me, but also just for the people I'm here to help, for the people I'm here to serve.
So Itatiaia, why don't you tell us your background?
Well, I was born in Brazil, and it was my sister and myself and my mom, and I came to the United States when I was about to turn 9 years old. But before that, my mom actually, you know, was really awesome that she was one of the first people, or she was the first person to go to college. So when she had my sister and I, she couldn't go to college and take care of us, so she let us stay with our aunt, and which was really cool, because my aunt had, you know, her own kids, and my other aunt had their own kids, and so it was like a whole bunch of kids, you know, so it was a big family. So that was really fun, even though we missed our mom like a lot. And every time she came over to visit us, it was just like Christmas, you know, like we're like, oh my God, mom's coming, and we would clean the house, and it was just really fun. But so yeah, I lived with my aunt and my uncle and my cousins, and you know, it was cool, because like I said, we did a lot of fun stuff together. But it, you know, when I was around, I don't remember, like 5 or 6 years old, you know, the first instance that I remember that really affected my life was my when I got abused by my uncle. I mean, he just, he touched me not in the right area. And I just remember sitting there and just like wondering what was happening, why he was doing this, and wondering why nobody was coming to rescue me. And in a way, like, I knew no one could because they didn't know. And also I knew that my aunt, even if she did know, she couldn't come and help me because, my uncle's my uncle. It's like, you can't mess with him, Mm-hmm. And so I remember, I'm pretty sure I told my mom about it. And, I just, even to this day, I don't feel like I really felt like anything was done about it. And so, it wasn't something that anyone talked about it ever since. And so I feel like I just kept it to myself all these years. And, so yeah, I just didn't, I didn't feel heard when I expressed myself. And then not having my real dad, was really painful too, because, that was the first person that should have been there for me, and he's the one that should have given me the love that I needed, and from a man. And he's the one that's supposed to teach me or the love, and he just wasn't there for me. And I wasn't able to talk about that hurt either. Because every time I tried to talk about it, it was just like, don't talk about it, shove it down. So really, I feel like everything that that's ever happened to me, like, I could never talk about it, either because I was trying to hide it or because no one else wanted to talk about it because it was either shameful or whatever the reason was. So I feel like I've been hiding my whole life.
Well, I could imagine. I mean, that's when the age when we are programmed or conditioned in a lot of our beliefs in how we're supposed to act and live. And I would imagine not feeling loved and not feeling heard kind of could create a lot of false beliefs that you have to deal with later in life. Because we're young age, we try to make sense of the world. Well, why is my uncle doing this? Why does my dad leave me? And so we get taught that we're unloved and unheard. And I would imagine that's got to be a very powerful life in bondage in a lot of ways, because you're not able to experience what we really need, especially at a young age, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that if I was able to talk about it and feel those feelings and, and talk about what was going on with me with someone that I trusted or could trust, I think my life would have turned out differently. It really would have. But because I wasn't able to resolve those issues and I had to keep it inside, it definitely accumulated to me living a certain way or feeling a certain way. And the decisions that I made, I'm sure it was based on not having those problems or resolved or even talked about.
Yeah, I bet. So you were in Brazil, you experienced that, a lot of trauma early on in life, and then you come to the U.S., which I would imagine that would present a whole nother set of challenges, just being accepted and already kind of having that, this probably a lack of confidence, right? And then you get thrown into the U.S., which I imagine that's got to just kind of make things worse. What was that like?
I mean, honestly, I was actually excited to come to America, because I was like, it was almost like, let's start fresh. Let's start new, even though I did have a hard time calling my stepfather dad. And I actually didn't really call him dad until a few years ago, that I really accepted him as my dad. And so he is my real dad. Like, he's the one that supported me, and, he's the reason why I'm here. And he's helped me so much, and he believes in me, and, so he's been a tremendous part of my life. But yeah, in the beginning, it was hard because I didn't know the language, but thank God my mom, she was an English interpreter in Brazil. So we learned the language pretty quick, but even though, the first year was kind of hard, Because I remember one time I had to go in a hallway and like learn English in the computer by myself, and it just felt kind of lonely. And it was really hard to make friends. And, by 5th grade, I was speaking already. So that was, and I had a really awesome teacher, so that helped out a lot. But in general, like, I remember just, I wasn't very popular. I didn't have a lot of friends. I always was scared to go to the cafeteria because I didn't have anyone to sit with. And so, that just accumulated, more like not having confidence in myself. So I was like really, really skinny and really tall. And so I wasn't really comfortable in my own body. And so I remember like having to wear, this baggy pants like three times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because, they were baggy so people couldn't see my legs. And that was probably the most comfortable I would feel. But if if it was like Tuesday and Thursday, I have to wear something else, and I just didn't feel comfortable. So that didn't help my confidence either. And yeah, so what happened was at 15 years old, the first thing that really I remember, I started feeling confidence is when people were telling me that I should model. And, and then all of a sudden, people were telling me I'm beautiful, that I should model, I should wear short skirts, and I was like, oh, wow. And so, like, I definitely start feeling a little bit better about myself.
Do you think that was a real sense of confidence or a false sense of confidence? Like, or did you really believe it?
Well, in the beginning, I just took it. Like, I'll take anything, And it definitely helped me for a while, like it helped me through. But I think after a while, even in the modeling business, you have to have inner confidence. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are. Even girls that are not beautiful and they have like that inner confidence, they go farther than someone that is beautiful and don't have that inner confidence, because people want to hang out with people that are confident, and it shines through. And I think after a while, they see that. They see the sadness in the person. They see they're not as, confident, or they're not happy. And so that shows in the pictures, that shows, when you go on go-sees, trying to get a job. And so even though I did, get some really awesome jobs in the beginning, like I worked for, I did a Coke ad in America, editorial, so that was really awesome. I did a Pond's commercial in Mexico. I was on cover of Brides magazine, and I was like, I just did I did some fashion shows for St. John's, and I did some really cool things, but it wasn't sustainable. Like I wasn't like, getting paid all the time, getting booked all the time. And I think a lot of it was because first of all, I was thrown in this world with like a whole bunch of adults, doing all these awesome things. And I'm like this little girl, with not a lot of confidence. And I didn't really have a lot of support, or anyone to talk about it with. And so that didn't help the whole thing.
So what sort of lifestyle is that? I could imagine, you're going around the world and parties, celebrities, that whole model world must have been, for a high schooler to get thrown into that must have been kind of like, what did I just get thrown into?
Yeah, at first it was really exciting because I went from like just being some, high school kid that wasn't very popular to, all of a sudden I'm living in this model's apartment in New York City, living with other girls that are awesome. And all of a sudden I had like a whole bunch of friends, and they all loved me and I loved them. And it was fun. I had people to talk to now, and, we went to parties and I got into the clubs. Even though I was like barely 18, they told me to lie, mm-hmm. And I was hanging out with like famous people, and, it was just exciting. And I even went to professional children's school in New York City, which was really amazing, to hang out with people that are like have goals and, actors and dancers, and they actually, they were in school to learn, and, there wasn't any of that like when you go to school, there's a lot of like, cliques, it wasn't anything like that. Everybody just was supportive towards each other. So it was a whole different world, and I really loved it. And I got to travel to Paris, Germany, Jamaica, Bahamas, Mexico. And so it was really fun, but at the same time, it was hard because, like I said, I was 17, 18 years old, and to be thrown in this adult world, you don't really know how, you need support, and I didn't really have that. And I think if I had that, maybe my modeling career would have, taken off or done better. But, I guess life had other plans for me.
Yeah, for us both. So you're doing this modeling thing, and it sounds like you're kind of just lost in this world, and you're not clear on where you're going with it. And so then what happens?
Well, I think what really kind of threw me off is one time I was trying to go to Italy, and, it was just a horrible time because it wouldn't let me in the country, even though I had a family that I was supposed to go with. And I ended up going to like this so-called, like hotel jail, and it was a horrible experience. And then finally they let me out, but with like in the police van, and I was like the last one to get in the plane. And so I just felt like I didn't even do anything wrong. I'm just trying to come here to model. And all of a sudden I'm looked at as some kind of criminal, and everyone's looking at me like, what did she do wrong? Like that was very devastating. And I didn't feel like I had the support from my agency and, all that kind of stuff. And so I just, like you said, I felt very lost. I didn't know what to do. And so, and I needed to support myself, and I didn't really have any peers to really talk to or coaches or anything like that. So I just somehow got myself, and it's the shame that, I want to talk about that I still feel today. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because, I can't live hiding anymore. It just doesn't serve me, and it doesn't serve the people I'm going to serve or that I want to help. I healed myself from my alcohol addiction through plant-based nutrition, but I'm still hurting inside with this shame. And the shame is that, I became a stripper. And that's something that I hid it for over a decade. I mean, basically almost like 15 years. Because of the shame that I felt dirty. I felt like I didn't feel like I just came from this modeling world that's like high class, expensive clothes, going to the best restaurants and, being invited to the best parties. And then all of a sudden I'm wearing this cheap, glittery outfit with like a slit and with a garter belt. And, and I have to like take my clothes off in order to make money. And so that was a really horrible feeling that I went from being a model to a stripper. And I really didn't have anyone to talk about that either, and so I just kept to myself. And also, because I felt so much shame and anxiety around it, and I felt like I really couldn't do anything else. I couldn't model. I wasn't good enough for that. And like, what else can I do? My confidence by that time was really low. And so I just felt like, stripping was the only thing I could have done. But in order for me to do that, I had to drink a lot. And I wasn't, modeling didn't make me drink or do drugs or anything like that. But it wasn't until I started stripping is when I really started drinking, because it was the only thing that could take away the anxiety and the shame that I felt. And so, if you can imagine doing that for almost every day for at least a year, by the time I got out of that situation, like my brain was addicted to alcohol. I didn't know it then, but I was. I literally turned into an alcoholic, which I was not before. I was a normal drinker. And so And I remember, like moving to California from, DC. I remember being so excited because I was like, oh my God, I get to start my life again. It's almost like coming from Brazil to here. I was like, I get to start my life again, and now I'm coming from DC, after the abuse and all this stuff and not having a dad. And then now I'm like, oh, I get to do it again, and no one needs to know about this. And that's what I did. I literally lived in San Francisco for like 14 years. Even my boyfriend for over 8 years did not know, and there's no way I could have told him because he would talk down to strippers. And the last thing I wanted was him to look at me like a stripper, like and then so I was so afraid that if I told people that they would look at me differently. I didn't want people to look at me differently. I didn't want them to look at me like a stripper, whatever that means in their world, because I had a lot of judgments towards it. And so I was afraid to be judged too. So I just kept it inside. And the more you keep things inside, the worse it gets. Like the monster just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then it's harder to even tell it.
I can so relate to that, wanting to just move away from your problems. And you realize that wherever you go, there you are. And they're still there. And what's interesting about this is that what you're sharing right now, not many people will go out and talk about this on a podcast publicly. They might share it with a few friends, but I can tell you from my own experience, it's not until I took my story public that you can really ditch the stigma of what we hide from. It's the only way to truly escape the prison of judgment that we hold. And that's very powerful, and I appreciate your story. And you are absolutely beautiful inside and out. Your story is very inspiring.
Thank you, Steve. I definitely couldn't do this without you. You definitely helped me a lot to get to this place. Like, who knows? I probably would have kept going and tried to hide. And part of me still wants to hide, But I feel really safe right now. And I know that your audience is, they're going through their own struggles. And I don't feel that they're going to judge me. But yeah, I need... The weird thing is that I'm so glad. I come to this conclusion that I'm so happy that I did become a stripper, because if I didn't become a stripper, I wouldn't have this purpose that I have today. And I'm so grateful that I get to help other people with addiction, and that I get to help them, truly find their purpose. Because like you said, I was lost for so long. And, feeling lost is just not a great way to live. And now that I'm on purpose, I have a mission, like, wow. Talk about like living a magical life, like every day is beautiful. And, but I do need to start talking about the shame that I've been putting under the rug for so long, because life can even be more beautiful, and I just want to keep going higher and higher, like deeper healing. And so this is my process right now, and this is what I feel like I need to do. So I really appreciate you being part of my story and helping me get this out, so I can go and create what I feel I've been called to do.
That's a beautiful process and interesting note, because even though you're living your purpose, helping and inspire other people, there's that next level, and it's that, and how I see it, it's the fragmentation that we have of ourself. It's looking at ourself like we're looking in a broken mirror. We see our brokenness. In reality, that's what keeps us out of living our potential in our purpose, when we become fragmented from who we really are because of that self-judgment. And I know even I struggle with this, not as much anymore since going through my process, but every time I get on a Facebook Live, I'm like, I can't be the real me, because I'm like afraid of messing up. What are people going to think? And so it's one of those things I've been forcing myself, just like you are, to step in here, and it just like, it doesn't, to reach your full potential, you got to keep like digging for what are those what are those false beliefs that are hiding in there? And from my experience and in those people I help coach through the process, it's the things that we judge about ourselves that create false and limiting beliefs that are holding us back.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And it's time to I'm ready to go to the next level. And if this is what I need to do, then I'm going to do it. So I'm just feel so happy to even be in this place right now to get to this next level. People always ask you like, oh, could you have stopped drinking earlier? And really the answer is no, because I had to go through everything that I went through to get to where I am today. And so, yeah, it took me a long time to speak this, but I feel like this is the time, And so I'm just, oh my God, like what's going to happen now,
Right.
I'm just ready for what's coming because this is a huge release.
And what I realized is that we're all just in a perfect process of becoming who we're supposed to become. And my only question to the listeners is what's holding you back in your life? Because me and Itatiaia both practice every single day of doing this type of work. And some leaps are bigger than the other ones, but it's the small steps sometimes that matter the most. But we have the biggest shifts when we clear out the biggest judgments that we hold of ourselves and the most shame. And so Itatiaia, there was one thing that you could do to square your recovery. What would that be?
I would say to really stand in your truth, like really check in. You really helped me with this a lot, like having God in you. And, you talk about the 3 panels. And so mine is like, just checking with God and checking with your inner child. And my 3rd panel would be checking with the goddess wisdom, this beautiful woman that's within me. And just speak from that place. And I think when we keep speaking from that place, like there is no judgment. It just is. And, and it doesn't matter what other people think. It just doesn't, because you're speaking in your truth. And that just feels really amazing, feels powerful. And it almost feels like, actually it does feel like anything's possible when you stand in that. So I'm just going to keep speaking my truth because it feels really amazing right now. Like I feel high.
That's awesome.
Versus hiding. Hiding is just like, you're trembling, you're like nervous, and you're just like, looking over your shoulders. And now I'm just like standing tall. And I just, I feel my confidence even going up right now. It's like, wow, thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing. This show was created to share stories like this and share how we can help each other through our own story and our own truth to help other people find their truth, because we can only grow in connection to other people. And so sharing this stuff and being vulnerable is a very powerful way to do it. I want to thank you so much, and I also want to give you a shout out. Itatiaias has helped me a lot with this show, anywhere from guests to show notes and just double checking a lot of things. So I want to thank you for helping me with this show. You've been a big part of it, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Steve, and I really appreciate you. Like, we only known each other for, almost 7 months now. But, you truly, truly inspire me every day, and you continue to. And I'm just so happy that you have this platform that people like myself can go in there and speak our truth. And so, because other people out there are still hiding and they're still in pain. And if they can just hear this message, I want them to know that they're not alone. And that we've been there, and we're still going, and we're still there, but building a community together, we can do this together and just love each other and not judge, but just love. And that feels good.
Well, I love you, and thanks for sharing.
I love you.
I've never gone through an interview like this where someone shares part of their process in real time. I know that each time we tend to share things as, pain shared is pain lessened, but to have somebody have the courage to come on my show and share one of the things that they held the most shame over, that has been hiding or lurking in the depths of their soul for decades. And Itatiaia was still able to have transformation on top of that. But for her to come on to Recovery Squared Radio and even take her transformation to a new level is truly inspiring. To access the show notes for this show, visit recoverysquared.com/12. I want to invite you to recoverysquared.com, and if you click on the Get Access button, I'll send you some other tools to help you get to your next level using some of the things we discussed on this show. First, I'll send you a one-on-one coaching call with me where I'd love to have a conversation with you and help you get clear on getting to your next level. This is truly an experience in its own right and will not last long, so act quickly. Second, I have a framework to send you that illustrates a Recovery Squared belief process in a roadmap to transformation. And third, we are building a community around Recovery Squared. And when you sign up, you can be added to our exclusive Facebook group where we can connect with other tribe members. I want to build relationships and I want to build our tribe. So I'm excited for you to be a part of this community. I love you and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.